while you're looking for that, let me do this. Let me just introduce the show and say hi to everybody. Heroin. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fucking brutal song.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just addressing the public. Hi, welcome to the show. Welcome to Vinyl and Vision. I'm your host, Jimmy Drab. This is my friend and my guest tonight, Andy Larsen. Would you like me to call you Harold Andy Larsen?
No, Andy's fine.
Andy's good?
Yeah.
All right. Andy's a friend of mine. We met together while we were working, and you are now retired.
Yes.
So congratulations to you.
Yeah.
I envy you.
Yeah, it's not bad. Retirement isn't bad.
Hey, would you mind moving that a little closer to you? Because I don't know if I'm picking you up too well.
Okay, yeah.
So what I just wanted to mention this really quickly because I keep on forgetting to do it on the shows. But so we sell the records here. So the purpose is to take a look at the record, get a good glimpse of it so that people out there buying it can actually see it very clearly, kind of up close in HD. And we're going to play the record in its entirety. We might take breaks, we might stop the song, or stop in the middle of songs, like just to kind of continue our conversation, but that's what we're doing. And now, Andy, you're going to be the first guy that I have to do a curation with.
Okay.
So I'm curating your record catalog. Right. Okay. So because yes. I sell records. I have my own eBay store. Andy's going to have his own eBay store too. That's the difference. Okay. So this time, the record we're featuring.
He's sharing his limelight somewhat.
Well, yeah. No. I mean, I appreciate you letting me go through your records, and because you want to sell them.
Yeah.
And so you asked me about kind of helping you out with the pricing and all that stuff. Which I'm going to go so far as to actually help you put them up and get them active. So it's going to be a long process. Andy's got a lot of records.
Thousands of records, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So we went through a very small portion of it. I brought home about 3 crates of your records to kind of go through and kind of do some research, find out what you were working with, what you were looking at possibly for your resale. And we found some great gems.
Yes, indeed.
One of those gems. Now, I don't think you were as excited about this as I was.
Well, I wasn't aware of the value of it, for one thing, and then, but now in retrospect, I realize why it is such a gem after I did a little more research on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a first printing, but it's a relatively newer printing.
Well, what I can tell you, this isn't new.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying it's the first pressing. I believe it's an early pressing.
It is, yeah. So from what I found out in my research was that this copy in particular is what they call the 3rd generation. I think that's what they call it, generation.
Okay.
So first generation basically looked exactly the same. There are very insignificant differences, but I guess there was like a big controversy about this picture on the back cover. So as you can see in this one, you can see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a close-up on it anyway, but you can kind of see how the picture of the band on stage, the projection that they had going in back of them, actually had a photo of a famous writer. I can't remember his name right now.
Timothy Leary, maybe?
No, it wasn't Timothy Leary, but it was somebody, and basically he was trying to sue the band for using his likeness without his permission.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah, so they basically had to try to alter this somehow.
Was it changed in the 3rd generation? It was changed.
By the 3rd generation, they airbrushed it out. So as you can see around here, you can see a really dark coloring around the kind of perimeter of the band. You can still see Lou Reed's image imposed, which was imposed on top of that because it was like a dual projection image.
Yeah.
So, because he's actually hanging out upside down. From like you could see his image like on the first pressings in the 1st generation. You can see his arms here, and this is his head. Also being.
And he didn't want to be assimilated with the Velvet Underground.
Well, it was basically they used his image without his permission.
So he felt uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. He made us think about it for whatever reason. I don't think I would care if that were me on the back cover of the Velvet Underground's record, but whatever. That's his thing.
Right, but at the time maybe he didn't want to be associated with them possibly too. But.
Right.
Either way, he probably wanted some money for it as well. It's
something.
Or whatever.
It's always something, right?
Yeah.
So, so they, the first pressing would be clear. You would clearly see him on the background.
So those have greater value.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that...
All of these first three generations seem to be within the same ballpark. Obviously, it depends on the condition of the vinyl as well, like which this is not in great condition, and we'll go into more detail about that, but it's in very good condition. I was very pleased with it. I was very surprised, and so I don't know if you could tell how excited I was when I found this in your stack.
Yeah, no, yeah, you were. you said it was one of the gold gems that you didn't expect to see. Yeah.
And not just because of the monetary value, like the resale value.
It's just kind of rare.
This album to me is like just very important to my personal life.
Okay.
Yeah, the Velvet Underground is one of my favorite bands of all time, and Lou Reed was one of my favorite artists and songwriters. And I've actually never listened to them on vinyl. And this record of all records was a great way to do that, and that's why I had put up a post on social media of this record and a bunch of other records that I had listened to, some from your collection and some from my collection, in one day. And I think I said that I had a very emotional day. And it's not because, I think some people mistook it as me saying like I was sad. Well, I was sad, but it was because of the music, and it was good. It was a good sad feeling.
Yeah, all right.
But it's because I had this and Randy Newman, Sail Away, and that Tom Waits Heart Attack and Vine that you had, and Led Zeppelin 2. So all the emotions. It was emotional.
Yeah.
Those fucking
yeah,
records.
well, music can do that, because whatever memories that you have chalked up to, your experiences listening to music.
Right. Or just the way it makes you feel. So, like, because the first time I ever heard this record and any of these songs by this band, obviously it was like mind-blowing, as it is for most young musicians, which is why they are considered to be one of the most influential rock bands.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt at the time when I first heard it, because, I heard it back in the 70s, I'd say. It was 75.
First time you heard the Velvet Underground?
It was around, I was introduced to it to a couple of people, acquaintances, some musical friends of mine. And I think one of them actually, Robert Lehman, he was inspired to play the viola, I believe, because of this record.
Really?
I think he took up the viola. It just seems, in retrospect, when I was listening to it today, it was two very, very good artists in high school, Robert Lehman and Steve Cornell, and they started a band, and I ended up playing the saxophone in a couple of the Rolling Stones songs that they did. But I remember going over to their house, to Steve's house, and him playing this record, and it just opened my eyes, because to hear of, I was been a classically trained violinist from when I was very young, but then hearing a viola played, electric, and
through distortion, sort of like effects.
Yeah, so that was like, oh, cool, and it kind of made me think, well, I can do that,
Yeah.
And so I think it opened the door for me to pursue.
I think that's what
more.
everyone said when they listened to this band.
Yeah, well,
I can do that. Yeah, I can sing like.
Well,
that.
yeah,
I'm a good singer.
yeah. Well, supposedly a quote from Eno, Brian Eno. He said that, well, when this record first came out, there was, I believe, it was like 30,000 copies sold originally.
Okay.
From 67, 68, in that period. That first pressing, I guess is what it was. And he said that of the 30,000 people that bought the record, he feels that those 30,000 people all started bands. I mean, whether they all did or not, I don't know. But clearly, in my experience, I think that's plausible that a good number of them did.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just look at any interview by any band after this point, and if you have any kind of in-depth interview with them, where you ask them, hey, what are your influences? What made you want to play rock music? It's usually rock and rollers. Most of them will probably list them. So
it makes it a very monumental endeavor, and it's ranked number 13
on what?
On the Rolling Stone album
Of all time
greatest records, I believe. Yeah.
I would believe that. Yeah, for sure.
And at the time, it was not mainstream at all. It didn't reach above 182 on the Billboard.
Yeah, which those numbers are confusing to me. Like I really.
Yeah, I don't know what they mean exactly myself. I'm just saying that as far as mainstream music goes, it wasn't on the radar.
It took a while. It was a slow.
It wasn't promoted heavily. I think because it was. Well, I think radio stations probably were reluctant to play a lot of the songs because the drug references and the sexual references that it had.
It's very, very blunt.
Yeah, and especially the heroin song with Lou Reed, talking about doing heroin on the first person.
Is that what it's about? I totally read into that the wrong way. No, but
I think the Stones had probably done Sister Morphine and different things. I don't know, but this was different.
A more reputable drug, And they use it in hospitals. How bad can it be? Heroin they never give you. Well, they give you the Oxycontin, but they wouldn't blatantly say, "I think you should start heroin."
Right.
Yeah, I think I can prescribe you some of that.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just not something that.
Caught on.
They wanted to air on the radio.
Right.
People weren't ready for that.
No. Yeah, it just happens sometimes. I mean, I think that I would assume that Lou Reed was fine with that. I mean, because he eventually got that credit, and more so than I think he.
I think if anything propelled the record or the music beyond what it was originally, I think it's where Lou Reed went. I mean, of all the musicians involved in that record, Lou Reed was the one that actually, and he almost got. He did. He wrote hits that were aired, and he received. I'm just saying. I think his attention, because he was so successful, I think it magnified the Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
From what he evolved into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly his input on the record, he wrote. I would say that he wrote all the songs.
Yeah.
And maybe majority of the songs he alone wrote. He wrote the words, and there was only 3 songs that would look like collaboration with, he collaborated with John Cale.
Yeah. Yeah, but instrumentation-wise, he didn't really write all the instrumentation.
Oh no, he wrote the words.
The band
he was a poet. He wrote the words,
right. And
he played guitar. So he
figured out the chord structure.
Right.
Of it.
So the main idea of the song.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm very aware of his work. I mean, I followed him into his solo career, well into that as well. He's the songwriter. That's what he's always been. That's what he's known for.
Right. And he's not the most talented instrumentalist in the world either, but he's just got the words. He's an amazing poet, and just you can identify with his words.
Right.
We miss him.
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, he's someone I wish I got to see, and unfortunately, I never took the opportunity.
I was fortunate enough to see him at Vet's Auditorium in Providence.
Oh, yeah.
And it was after he released the New York album.
Right after he released it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He was
80 something, 86.
No, not.
Somewhere.
No. It was later than that. It was in the 90s.
Was it?
When New York
came out?
One of his later.
Okay.
Works. But anyway, to see that, and it was just him, and he had a music stand in front of him, and he just did the New York record in its entirety,
Yeah.
from beginning to end, and then he played some hits at the end.
Huh.
A lot of the people were trying to get him to play some of his Walk on the Wild Side or something,
his bigger
but he was like, he said, I told you I'm doing the record from the beginning to end, and this is what I'm doing. So, but anyway, it was a great experience to have seen him.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
I would have liked to seen him in a full band also, in a setting.
yeah.
But
Have you ever listened to any of his live records? Like any of the live records he put out?
yes, yeah, so yeah.
Are you a fan of any of them?
I have. Well, you haven't got into the garage where all my records are, but I must have 15 or 20 Lou Reed records. So
Live records, specifically.
I'm not certain if I've got live ones or
Yeah.
not, but
Well, because I've listened to his.
I've
live
got some
recordings.
DVDs of his,
Oh, okay.
and so
Yeah.
I am familiar with some of his live stuff.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. Just like I've said it before, that I'm just not a huge fan of live music in general. I don't know. For me personally, I just don't really. I don't know. I don't relate to it, or I don't like the way that it sounds. Like, because.
Well, there's certain live performers that capture their essence better than others, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And
There's
Lou
that,
Reed's not good
but-
at it. Like, because I feel like, I don't know if it was like kind of time-wise, because of like when these performances had been recorded, like maybe they were, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there, and it's just like, maybe it was maybe the quality of their instruments and then the actual sound recording, because like this is like raw and down and dirty. Like this is a very low-budget, lo-fi recording,
Yeah.
and I love that. And I don't know, even his other studio records, I mean, like they had a much more produced quality to them, but they were still good. I like the studio setting. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Maybe
No,
it's because
yeah.
you can really kind of like see what they were going for as far as like building up that piece, with any kind of like backtracking, layering. Sometimes it's just a band in the room, and you can tell that too. It's just like, 4 mics, 4 instruments, or whatever it is, and a band is kind of working off of each other, and then you can feel that in a recording as well. Live records just like sometimes it sounds sloppy, especially Lou Reed. Like Lou Reed sounds sloppy when he played. I mean, and I think that's because he was a loose player. He didn't have to be one of those like really tight guys, because I don't know, his songwriting style alone, it was very, some of it could be spontaneous live, kind of like go off. It could be a little jammy even. You know how he like jam on some of his songs, that like Sweet Jane or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
all right, no, I really like the verse, chorus.
Right, and
aspect
then
of
he
this.
kind of lose you in his rambling
Yeah.
guitar solos that just kind of don't make a lot of musical sense.
Yeah,
But I think that live music is not always the best representation of what the musician actually
Right.
sounds like,
Yeah.
or because in a recording we can use a lot more experienced players. They can have a bigger group, and then when you get into a live setting, then they're left to basically their essence.
right.
And you're used to hearing everything nice, the drums and the
Right.
bass and
A good
everything
mix.
just right there,
And that's a good
and
point.
live they're not worried about that. You're just there to hear Lou Reed sing his poems, and I'm sorry it's not sounding like the record, but it's still him.
Well,
but-
he didn't give a fuck. That
no,
was the thing.
no.
He was not the type of person to care about anything that the audience thought of him, whether they loved him or not, whether he was making a lot of money or not. It was always going to be that. It was always going to be like, I want to play this the way I want to play it.
Right.
You don't want to listen.
Right.
to
He
this.
wasn't playing to get a chart busting hit.
Right.
His music, some of it fell in the lap, but I probably later on in his career he probably wrote things he thought maybe would be popular, but I don't think he sat down and said, I'm going to write a hit now.
Right.
It just happened to.
No. I think he was more.
I Love You, Suzanne. Didn't that receive some success?
Lovely Suzanne.
I Love You, Suzanne,
Love You, Suzanne.
off of or My Red Joystick, that off New Sensations
Oh,
record.
okay.
I think there was a hit on that that had some radio play, but
Yeah.
it was not a typical Lou Reed situation.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, Transformer had pretty good success.
That pretty
I think the
good.
world at that time was ready to hear about transvestites and the like.
Yeah, they were much more open to it at that point.
Yeah.
Plus Bowie thing, I think. I'm
Yeah,
assuming
so
he
at that
also
time it was
younger.
like, it's we've been there, it's not
Yeah.
new, it's...
Yeah, no, I mean, they opened up the gates for a lot of that, man. You know, it was just like people started to, what's the word for that? They kind of transgressed. They became more free. It was past the hippie movement. It was past hippies, right? It was, so it wasn't quite.
Well, this was like kind of it was punk rock in this. This was kind of like a beginning of punk rock.
Yeah,
right.
It was so it's somewhere right in the middle between
Right in the mix of that. Yeah.
the end of the hippie era and then the.
But this album,
Rolling
you
into
know,
punk.
it's not like Sex
No.
Pistols where it's in your face,
Mm.
but it's cutting edge
Yeah.
in its
Well,
own right. So.
It's punk rock in the respect that I think I kind of famously heard Kurt Cobain of Nirvana talk about it, saying, you know, punk is more of a state of mind. It's not about, you know, what kind of clothes you're wearing and, you know, if you're playing these like bar chords on the guitar. It's just more of your attitude. You just need to
Yeah,
have
so
a
then
punk
he
attitude.
had that attitude.
Oh,
right.
for sure.
Yeah.
All of these guys. I mean, Andy Warhol, and,
Yeah.
John Cale, Maureen Tucker, even Nico, as beautiful as she was, right? I mean, she obviously had that kind of fuck you mentality to some degree.
Oh yeah, she taught the world of Lou Reed, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the relationships or anything like that. I didn't get too into them as far as like learning the history. I mean, I listened to the music, but yeah, I mean, there's so much shit that went on with musicians and all of the musicians that there have been and all of these decades long of it. I don't really get into all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just that like this record basically came about because of Andy Warhol.
Right.
Certainly, he financed it.
Yeah, he produced it, didn't he?
Well, they say he produced it, and he's however, he didn't really have the role of a producer. In other words, he didn't have any hands-on as far as the production goes. He was there. Lou Reed put it. He was like the umbrella. He was there. He was there during the recordings, and I'm not saying he wouldn't offer his expertise, but
Yeah.
he was just there as an observer and making sure everything went smoothly.
Well, he wasn't.
Doing it.
He wasn't a musician. He was an artist.
Right. And from what I've read is that this group with Nico, the Velvet Underground, was basically it was Andy Warhol's kind of conception. It was Andy Warhol's exploding plastic inevitable tour,
Okay.
and this group performed on this tour, and then
From there, he kind of got into the
Then
idea of
Andy
like, hey,
Warhol.
listen, I really love what you guys are doing.
yeah, so they were all together in that tour, and then so Andy Warhol wanted to take the time to
To work with them,
To-
kind of like get them to. get
right.
in
So
the
he
studio.
financed it.
Yeah, because
for-
you need money for all that. Go
So
to the studio.
at the time, it was between $1,500 and $3,000.
But the budget for recording?
That's what Andy Warhol. That's the estimate.
That's what he spent for this
Yeah,
record?
1,500, 3,000, and like that would be, by today's standard, that would be more like
Probably
15 to
20s,
20,000,
maybe
but-
somewhere around there. I mean, recording.
which
these
still would
days,
be if you could do it out for 20,000 now, that'd probably be.
That'd be a bargain.
It wouldn't be. Yeah, that would.
If
that
it were
wouldn't
to
be- it
become
wouldn't be
a
the worst
massive
price in the world.
success.
Yeah.
If you spent $20,000 on making a record, and it was a massive success, even on a you know, kind of a sleeper kind of method. Like, you know, if it kind of slowly gained popularity, it'd still be worth it. You know, I mean, you can sell records for a lot these days. And so what the independent standard, I think, this is what I heard back a few years ago, was that if you're an independent musician and you're on an independent label, or you're self-produced, let's just say, if you were to sell 50,000 units of whatever, you know, whatever you're doing, that would be considered indie gold. Like, because that would be, you would be at a level where you're making money off the record, and your label's making money off of you as well. So like everybody's happy, you know.
Okay, and yet they sold 30,000.
But they sold that 30,000 in the 60s, which at that point in time, I mean, for the idea of major record label success, which I don't know if I would have considered Verve to be a major record label at that time, but they were definitely...
No, Verve was, well, they were probably the label for jazz, certainly.
Right, they were definitely known for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for them to put out a rock record, I mean, I don't know what their numbers used to be like, but I mean, if you think about the Beatles,
right,
millions, okay? So now the record labels see, okay, bands have potential to sell millions internationally, so let's focus on that.
Yeah, right.
Which this didn't do.
No.
And it does now. Now everyone all over the world knows it, but...
Yeah, it was recorded in '66, 4 days in April 1966, and they had, I don't know, I guess 10 cuts originally, and then they added the Sunday morning track in November, because they wanted another song for Nico to sing.
Okay.
That's what Tom Wilson. Basically, Lou Reed and John Cale both said that Tom Wilson, more or less, was the producer for the album.
He was the actual like inspiration in the studio type thing.
Yeah, he was the one that went to Elektra and went to Atlantic and went to MGM.
He shopped
and went, yeah,
he was
to sell the record
and deal.
And
but was he in the studio too? From what you learned, from what you were reading?
He was involved in it. Yeah,
in the studio, like kind of like working with the band on the songs. Okay, yeah, I would consider that more producer for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, certainly more than and like I say, I've read that Lou Reed and John Cale, they would say that they would call him the producer.
Yeah. That's cool. You definitely have learned a lot more than I did. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't get too into, I appreciate looking at the record. You know, there's that information in there. I haven't memorized it, but I did look through the gatefold of this record. Because obviously all the information is there, at least, you know.
Yeah.
But this looks great, by the way. Like, inside this gatefold, I mean, I understand that the edges are a little beat up, you know, a little...
But for the most part, it's not bad. Yeah.
No, actually, not even any splits. Well, it's kind of splitting up here, up in the top. But it's not like a bad split, like where the record's going to come through.
Yeah,
But either way,
yeah.
This is one of the better copies that I've actually seen of this. From my
And I would imagine the majority of them would have would have been peeled.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some that have been completely peeled. This is kind of been a little bit compromised. This isn't actually peeled, it's just that it's been worn away or torn away a little bit. Then the end here has been torn away a little bit. I can almost see that little pinky flesh underneath there. It's almost taunting me. It's almost like it's hiking its skirt up on me.
And
So,
it seems like the record is in fairly good shape.
I had to listen to this. I had to listen to it just out of my own in my own sake. Like, obviously, I put it on for quality
Yeah,
control.
I listened to it today, not the record, but the MP3 and whatever.
Oh yeah. You didn't listen to this record, but you were listening to it.
To the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's monumental. It's just.
Yeah. But it
And
is,
it's, it's referenced. The Venus and Furs was actually used in the Rob Zombie movies, Lords of Salem.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Well, that's a very famous song now, anyway. Oh, and Venus and Furs, not really so much, but
No,
um,
but it had its place in that movie.
yeah. Well, he's definitely the band, and Lou Reed and his legacy and all his entire catalog obviously is a lot more commonplace these days. Anyone using any of his songs in the '60s would probably be much more of an obscure kind of artsy film or something like that, and not really make any mainstream success out of it. So let's listen to this thing,
Yes.
because I'm gonna tell you, I think it sounds great. Like, no problems with it for sure. There was no skipping, there was no scratches in it, no popping. Or maybe a little popping, a little bit, a little crackly. That's it. Where's my brush? I had a brush. There it is. Just in case, I did clean it already, but I figure why not? Let's just get a little brush before we play it. And cheers, buddy. Thank you for coming by, and thanks for letting me go through your records.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. You got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. And my girlfriend will appreciate me getting the stuff out of the house.
I understand that, but I do feel a little bad about it. Yeah, man. It's like, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, yeah, you can do that. End of side one.
All right.
We just plowed right through it, man. We didn't take any breaks in between songs.
No, that's
all right.
okay.
That's right. We talked over some of the songs, which
Yeah, it's a classic album of classic albums. It's a classic album. I think
it's very inspirational. It's very moving.
And it's certainly historic
Mm.
in the musical sense of the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a little. I think the next song, when I put it on side two, it starts off Heroin.
Yes.
I think that one kind of fucked me up. Like, luckily, by the time we were listening to this during dinner, we just basically got through the first half. So second half, I went in, flipped it.
Oh, it kind of pulled on your heartstrings a little bit.
Because I was
more
just
than the
sitting
others.
there right in front of the speakers, just kind of taking it in.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that song has always done it for me. But to hear it on the vinyl for the first time, I was just like, holy shit. This is like taking me to a place that
Yeah.
I'm not ready. We're sure I'm
Yeah,
ready
that's
for.
interesting. I have never had an epiphany with a record.
Not like
But then again, I
Nico.
grew up, but I think your experience with records might be a little different than mine. I think I probably took records for granted, and that was my way of listening to music from the beginning.
Yeah. But you have a pretty
So,
extensive collection.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that I couldn't put certain records on that would stir emotions.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that I guess what it is it's you. Well, it'd probably be like me opening a pack of cards and finding a Mickey Mantle card in there or something. It's like
Yeah. My sentimental attachment to this record, you mean?
Yeah, well, it's something like, wow, I like you say, you've never experienced it on vinyl.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's something special. Yeah.
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 I would say so, especially being such a rare pressing. I mean, sound quality wise, I'm not floored by it. This is a great copy. I think it does sound really good. There is some crackle to it. It is just an old copy record, I mean, like, it's that happens with records.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, let me ask you this real quick, just because it's coming to my mind. So my wife was listening to some records with me. You know, she was like overhearing what I was listening to because I have stuff going all the time. And I was like saying something to her about how, I was putting up a listing and was like, I mentioned something about the quality of the sound. And she was just like, what are you talking about? She says, it sound perfect. I was like, well, yeah, the playback was good, but it was a little crackly. She was like, isn't that why people listen to records? Don't they want to hear crackle? Like, isn't it just kind of like synonymous with putting a record on? You hear crackle.
Yeah.
And it's true. You do hear crackle, especially like when you put the needle
Between songs a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, like as it's running.
It doesn't distract from the music, but it's there. It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I had never thought about it like that, because I was listening to the records and I was just like, this sounds great. Okay, sounds great. Let's move on to the next one. Sounds great. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You know, like unless it was like a significant pop or skip, you know.
Yeah, right. Something that distracts from the music.
Right, right. Then like that would obviously be a problem. Crackle, crackle I don't mind.
No.
I mean,
No. You're gonna get crackle if you're just getting dust on the needle, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, I try to do a really good job cleaning these.
Yeah.
And like I had mentioned before, I do the wet listen at first. So sometimes I don't even kind of pick up on that crackle because that will eliminate most of it, at least while you're listening to it then. By the time you dry it off, you know, like get the alcohol off of it and let it dry, and I'll listen to it dry like this. It's a little more pronounced, but it may have been even more pronounced had I not done the wet listen.
Right.
Because at least it did some of that really kind of deep cleaning.
So you were talking about how when you played the record, you know, the heroin in particular, that it touched you in a way that was like, well, you know, I'm listening to this and it's, you know, the experience of taking it all in.
It hit me.
And I guess I could say that maybe I had there was a cassette that I had as a kid. It was a Harold Land, New Shade of Blue.
Harold Land?
Harold Land, a tenor sax player.
Okay.
And I had a cassette of his. I used to play it all the time, and then I finally found it on record.
Oh yeah.
And I guess that music had a special place because I'm very fond of it. And so I guess when I played that record, or like Brecker Brothers, their first record,
Yeah.
you know, something like that. And now I've got the vinyl, you know, the first time I've had it.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to it, and then, so I don't, I'm not saying it's the exact same experience, but it's a similar thing that you're just like, you're it's kind of like outer body experience a little bit, in the sense that you're just taken with it.
It just gives you the feels, you know, whatever feel it's going to be. Like, so those artists you were just mentioning, are they more jazz-like musicians?
Yeah, Harold Land and the Brecker Brothers would be jazz,
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, my experience with jazz is that, it can definitely have the same type of effect. I mean, all music can have the same type of effect. All the different styles, like all the different bands playing all these different styles, they have all these like, you know, different kind of like abilities and sensibilities, like what they're kind of putting across. Like, you know, you said jazz. Jazz is a very wide genre. You know, like there's that.
Inspired gyra jazz, but then there's
Miles
Coltrane
Davis
jazz, and then there's
Coltrane jazz, like stuff that's
Rashawn Roland Kirk.
like you know your jazz,
crazy
a lot better than I
jazz,
do.
right?
But there's so many different types of feels for those within that one genre. So I don't know. I mean, like I can see where if you're listening to more jazz, maybe you wouldn't get that same feel. Like I've always been a rock and roll guy.
Yeah, well, it's where your roots are, certainly, and what you grew up listening to, perhaps, or whatever your musical experience has taken you.
Right.
And if something, you know, that you enjoyed 20 years ago,
right,
and then all of a sudden you get reunited with it, it's it's a special moment, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just like certain songs, like even like I was mentioning Randy Newman earlier. Do you like Randy Newman?
Oh yes, yeah.
So I got the copy of Sail Away. Do you know that record?
What does the cover look like?
Just close above his face while he's at the piano playing. Just him with sunglasses and big afro-y hair.
Okay, but not so much that album, but
Yeah, no, but it's a fucking, it's a motherfucker.
well, he's good.
He's good.
He's a tremendous songwriter.
Yeah,
and the emotion that he
right.
conveys is yeah.
And he has a wide spectrum
Very,
too.
very talented guy. The way his songs are produced, and yeah, I think he's.
Right. So he's got like some of his more lighthearted, kind of like friendly, kind of jolly music, like shit, what's the name of it now? The Dancing Bear. I forget the name of the Dancing Bear, but that's part of the title.
Yeah.
If that's on that record, and then there's songs like Old Man, and what are the songs on? God is on that, I think. Really like depressing songs. And
yeah, he's a very emotional
yeah,
singer.
yeah. But like that record in particular, like really hurts me. Like to put that on, I'm just like, I honestly don't think I've ever gotten through listening to that song, Old Man, without like crying. Like especially if I'm trying to sing along with
I think
it.
some Joni Mitchell songs do that to me. Like
Yeah,
the
I can see
the
Joni.
Blue album, or
Right.
Ladies in the Canyon, some songs there.
Oh yeah, she's got some beautiful like somber ones. I'm a sucker for a sad song. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, Randy Newman, yeah, very emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That record especially, I'll have to like get you a copy of it or something so you can listen to it and just kind of
Sail
what I
Away.
mean. Sail Away. Yeah.
I'll check it out. Yeah, but I'm very fond of Randy.
I'll have to go through your collection. Maybe I'll find it.
Yeah,
It'll probably be in there somewhere.
possibly. But, yeah.
Speaking of which, before we get to side 2, let me just say that I'm really looking forward to curating your collection. It's so much good stuff. First of all, this is going to go live, and I'm assuming at auction when this video premieres. So when this video is on, and if you're seeing it and you're hearing the audio, if you're hearing the show, this record is going to be available. I'm going to link it, and I'm going to link it directly to you, to your website, not my store. So it'll go to you. And we'll start the auction somewhere, I don't know where yet, and we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah.
But as for everything else, so much good fucking shit. One crate that I have here is mostly all sealed records. It's mostly all new records.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff like Record Store Day stuff, but excellent stuff. Kraftwerk, Computer World. You got 2 copies of that. You have one in a blue vinyl, and one I believe is in a clear vinyl. And they're weird, like.
I thought one might have been a green vinyl, but.
Yeah, one has a blue sticker on it.
Okay.
And it's definitely a blue vinyl.
Okay.
And then the other, I think there was 2 other different pressings. There was a clear and there was a green.
Yeah.
But I don't know which that is. Because it's not labeled, doesn't have a green sticker on it, doesn't have a clear sticker on it, or a white sticker. So it's one of the 2.
Yeah.
But you also have the Man Machine by Kraftwerk, which is sealed in there. You've got some Snake Finger live in Melbourne, double reissue, double disc. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only, it's actually limited pressing, it's like 300 copies.
Is that right?
Yeah, I did the research.
Yeah. I know it was a friend of mine introduced me to the Residents, and we actually saw the Residents.
You did?
In Boston.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, when you see the Residents, who you see it, right? But
you don't know?
Yeah, so.
I was thinking about them because I was listening to a podcast about them recently, and it reminded me of the fact that they were anonymous. They were an anonymous band, and obviously with being with anonymity, you obviously have to conceal yourself. So I'm like, okay, I've never seen them perform, but I'm assuming they perform in some type of disguise, maybe the eyeball head or whatever.
Yeah, he had an old man's mask on.
Yeah,
the lead singer. And
so I was just like, so what makes these guys any different than the Blue Man Group? the Blue Man Group isn't the original members anymore. Now they've actually franchised where there's multiple Blue Men Group.
Yeah, I think it's a little different though. I think the residents.
No, but what I'm saying is you could swap those guys out.
You could, yeah.
It could be an ongoing
Yeah.
thing, like residents will never die.
Right, but because the residents aren't performing as often as the Blue Man Group
Right.
has.
But they could carry that.
But you're right.
torch
As far as the original members, I'm quite certain that when I saw them, the singer with the old man's mask on was an original member.
Yeah.
And as far as all the others, and a lot of it is pre-programmed music. There might be a guitar player or something.
Right.
But,
Well, you have a lot of records that we're going to be listening as well, which included in that. I don't know if you realize this, but you have a copy of Santa Dog, not the original copy.
no.
Don't wet your pants.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the original would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an amazing find. But I guess they reissued Santa Dog. So now the thing that you have is a little interesting because when they did a reissue of like their entire catalog basically, and it was still Ralph Records that did the reissue, and they reissued Residue of the Residents, and so I guess they did a pre-order. Do you remember doing this? Do you remember ordering this like through the website directly or like through the record label? Because it said that with a pre-order of the Residue of the Residents, you could also pre-order this whole bundle. You could order Residue, Santa Dog, and it would include a limited edition numbered 12 by 12 poster.
Yeah, I'm not sure what site I was on that had that.
And it also came with a promotional Ralph Records, not Ralph Records, because it was another company that reissued that one. It was Astral something. I can't remember the company's name, but it was a promo poster of theirs, full-size like Santa Dog poster with the catalog from that record label on the back. And it's all in perfect condition. Yeah, they're not opened, they're sealed. Both of those. So I put them aside nicely in a little poly sleeve.
Yeah, I think they came out like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a newer release.
Yeah.
It's a reissue, but yeah, they're still sealed. So we'll probably group that together, probably sell it all as one bundle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So on with the show.
Yes. To heroin.
To heroin. That's past the gateway, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is what it leads up to. Oh, I'm sorry. Can't do this from that side. Would you like a refresher?
It's not pretty sounding, so it's.
No, it's not pretty.
But it's
real.
It's good. It's more real.
That's the typical thing for a band, yeah. I mean, like, even a local band playing out around here in a small club, it's just like, oh, we got the PA system, we got about 8 channels, anywhere from 8 to 24 to 36 maybe if you're got a good system. We mic up everything individually, we do the sound check with you, you kick, let me check your kick drum, let me check your snare, let me check your hi-hat, okay, let me check your, play the full kit, it's usually never anything like, just set up and play now, guys. Sometimes, that's cool.
Right.
If you can just hear everything, usually you can. They're just making a hobby of it now. Like, oh, the band comes in, okay, like, who's the guitar player, who's the keyboard player, who's the bass player, all right, who's the drummer, all right. Then you go one of these weird ass bands that like doesn't have necessarily all of those pieces. You're like, oh no, we just have a guitar, violin.
We got a French horn, and we got
we got some. We got the clav going on. This guy's playing the clav and the harpsichord. This guy's got a harpsichord.
I saw, of course, this new music ensemble. I was involved in a new music ensemble at Dartmouth. Took a course, an elective, and I happened to catch, I can't remember the guy's name right now that was the instructor, but we did some very strange music. And we had, whatever group of instruments we had, whatever. We had a clarinet, a flute, a trumpet, or whatever. I played the soprano sax, and maybe somebody sang. And one of the pieces was you had a bunch of cards, and on each card had a note or said play loud or whatever, and you shuffled them and whatever. So you just went through this, and everybody had their stacks of cards and doing it, and you just kind of interacted with one another, you know. If it said 6 seconds, meant you just play anything you want for 6 seconds, you know, or whatever, and you'd be doing your thing. And
Yeah.
and I saw them. He had a group, and they performed at Roger Williams Park, the art museum. I guess downstairs they used to have music performances, and he had a new music ensemble, and the percussionist had a bag of cahog shells, and he would just ruffle the shells during the song. But you know, you know, people would say that's music. Well, you know, so what is music? Music is
percussion.
Music is anything. You know.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think the first maracas were made? You put some beans in a fucking like empty shell.
Yeah.
And you shake it around. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That makes some cool sound.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I love that. I love the sound of that. Or at least I would love to see that maybe. See what you guys did with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
So-
like I say, Eddie Harris. We can maybe come back with some Eddie Harris down the road.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to listen to? So you're a big jazz guy. Would you say you're predominantly like a jazz
Well,
guy?
what I enjoyed growing up, the most music that I enjoyed listening to would be like jazz rock,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. So, Chick Corea, you know, Mahavishnu Orchestra, that, you know, that kind of stuff really, what I really like. But then Eddie Harris is a very unique saxophonist, because he did a lot of experimental things, electric sax, playing a trumpet with a soprano sax mouthpiece, playing a trombone with a trombone, playing a tenor sax with a trombone mouthpiece, and wrote some really neat stuff.
Yeah. Huh. That's cool.
I mean, people would know because he wrote the theme from Exodus, which is a very popular song.
Yeah, I can't think of
Yeah,
it off the top of my head.
Anyway, if you heard it, you definitely
I would
would
know,
recognize
for sure.
it. Anyway, he wrote that, and typically the music that he wrote, you wouldn't think it would be that. You know, when you listen to it, I guess you can say, oh, I guess that sounds like Eddie Harris, and yet it's not, you know, typical for him to write a melody to be that mainstream.
Yeah.
It's just an...
So, but so your main influence maybe is more jazz oriented. More so than like rock. Obviously, you do like rock music. I mean, obviously, going through.
Yeah, being a saxophonist, I guess, you know, and you know, and I can play some jazz violin stuff.
Are you a saxophonist primarily?
No, mostly violin.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, when I got into the sax in junior high, then that's when my taste for music suddenly changed, and then went to the jazz direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you play any other instruments aside from violin and sax?
Violin, viola, and the saxophones. That's, yeah.
Oh, okay. You can fiddle on other things, I assume, right? You're
I mean, I guess I
competent
could play the
enough.
piano a little bit,
Yeah.
the guitar a little bit, but not to say that I can really play the instruments. I can get some
Yeah.
sounds out of them.
And you were doing some gigging recently, right? You said you were kind of hooking up with a buddy and playing some shows.
I've been playing in New Hampshire at some restaurants. We're playing tomorrow night in Nashua.
So, are you interested in like being like a hired gun at this point? Kind of considering you're retired and all. I mean, like, if you can find a gig doing
Oh yeah,
violin work or viola or
saxophone. Yeah.
even if it's marching band stuff, anything like that.
Yeah. Because I do that.
Yeah. So cool, man. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to put your information out there. I mean, I can always link you. You don't have a website, but I mean,
No, but me and John Cucci, the guitar player, are putting together a website, and so I'll share that link with you.
Oh, yeah?
When
When it's ready.
Yes.
Sure.
So we've done some recording and putting a website together. So this way there we'll have something to show and maybe put out a CD
Yeah.
down the road.
Cool. That's great, man. Original work or just covers? Or...
Yeah, we do some original stuff. So that's what we would put on the CD, a couple of original
Yeah.
cuts because.
Why not? You're ready.
Yeah, I mean when we play out, it's a mixture. There's some of the original material, but predominantly it's the mainstream, James Taylor, anything. He does an Elvis Presley song.
Yeah.
He sings and plays guitar, and I just fiddle along with him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds great, man. So we're gonna do that. We'll link you as soon as you have that ready. And if you're interested in anyone contacting you, I can even link your email if you want.
Yeah.
That way.
Certainly.
Yeah. Why not? Actually, I'm gonna link my email because I wanted to kind of make a point to let people know that I would love to do what I'm doing with you. I would love to kind of curate more people's record collections because I don't really necessarily care to go hunt for records to sell anymore. Like, it's fun for me and I enjoy doing it, but to have something like this is really cool too. To have someone I know I can just kind of talk to and hang out with and say, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. I can like look through all your records and designate my time to that instead of like hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my email is songcrafter, SONGCRAFTER 666 at Gmail. It was available, so I took it. So yeah, you can email me there, and like if you have any questions, comments, anything about records, anything about this show, if you want to know about how to find me to curate your records for you, if you have your own personal collection, or if you have a family member that has left you a collection, doing any kind of clean outs or something like that, I can come and do that because that's awesome. And even if you were to have an estate sale, you probably wouldn't do as good as I can probably find out for you if I have a little bit of time and a computer.
All right.
So,
and you'll put out my information for the.
Oh yeah, we're gonna link your
like
eBay
that
page.
to my eBay.
Yeah, I'm gonna link you, and we'll probably start off with 50 to start, like 50 listings, which obviously you have way more than that.
Yeah, but that's a good start.
Yeah. I mean, this one will definitely be on there. I'm pretty sure we'll have at least close to 50 by the time this goes up, because it'll be very quickly. Actually, probably only be a couple days from now or something by the time I get all this video and audio synced up and ready to be posted.
All right.
So cool, man.
Well, I thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me listen to this beast. I loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well.
Well, thank you for sitting down and listening to it. We'll do it again sometime. Well, your choice.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.